So the IRS has released new information on the next round of stimulus checks. In order to receive stimulus cash from the fourth stimulus package, many people will have to file a tax return this year, everybody, even if they don't usually file. Now, it all started with the President's American Rescue Plan, which was signed into law late last year. States were given $195 billion to help fund their own local economic recovery at the state level. But they don't have forever to spend this money. States have to figure out what to use it on by the end of 2024, and they have until the end of 2026 to spend all of that cash. Some states have given out their own version of a stimulus check to everybody, and others are targeting at specific groups. Teachers have been one of the occupations in which extra hardships, flexibility, and adaptation have been part of the ongoing crisis. Many teachers will be getting some help in the form of stimulus checks or even pay raises. The Florida governor has officially proposed that there will be an increased funding in Florida public schools. This will provide $1,000 stimulus checks to teachers, and this is actually the second year in a row the state has done this. And also many teachers will get a salary increase from $40,000 to $47,500. This is possible through a $600 million budget specifically for teacher pay. It will all make a huge difference for countless teachers. And not only that, folks, but the plan will include about 179,000 teachers and principals in the state for full-time K-12 educators. That means the bonus checks will be deposited into bank accounts very soon. And now, taxpayers who earn less than the standard deduction, which is $12,550 for single filers, don't have to file a tax return. However, it can make sense to file one anyway, even if you don't technically need to. That's because there could be cash owed to you by the IRS, especially if you have dependents. The extra stimulus cash could come from two sources: reclaiming taxes that you've already paid for, or overpaid for, or by claiming tax credits that you're entitled to, including money from the third stimulus check if you haven't already received it. The first is a refund of taxes that you don't usually owe. Single taxpayers under 65, earning less than $12,000 a year, don't have to pay income tax on their earnings, nor do joint filers under 65 who earned less than $25,100. But if you made less than these amounts in 2021 and taxes were withheld by an employer, say for a full-time job that you had for a couple months in 2021, you could be owed a refund. Refundable tax credits, on the other hand, can be very valuable for people who don't normally file a tax return, since they can be paid out in cash even if you don't owe anything in taxes. Non-refundable credits and other deductions, on the other hand, can only be used to reduce the amount of taxes that you owe, and the Earned Income Tax Credit is a refundable tax credit worth up to $6,728 for low and moderate income workers. The credit amount is based on how many children you claim, although you can still file it if you have no children. In the case of no qualifying children being claimed, the payout is $1,500. And to receive this credit, your qualifying adjusted gross income has to be below a certain threshold, all based on how many qualifying children you are claiming. As part of the economic stimulus bills related to the crisis, most people receive stimulus checks, otherwise known as economic impact payments, in 2020 and 2021. The third payment was up to $1,400 per adult, plus $1,400 per child or adult dependent. Now, the first two checks can no longer be claimed, but if you didn't receive the third one in 2021, or you were owed more than you received, you can still claim the funds of a recovery rebate credit in your 2020 tax return. Folks, it's good news that President Biden is doing his best to help out the American people with stimulus checks. If you guys agree that President Biden should definitely do more, tell me in the comments below.
Housing a preference for especially the millennial housing group, which represents about 57% of our backlog. What the pandemic then did is caused a huge supply chain issue, and it continues to this day, both costs and effects on costs and timing. And then as you go through that whole set of variables, which I've never seen so many variables in my 30 plus years affecting our economy, you had this fiscal stimulus that kind of fueled this fire, right? I mean, there's over $5 trillion floated into the economy. And now the Fed is put to a point where they want to put out this fire, and they're going to raise rates, and that doesn't even take into account what's going on in Ukraine. So all these variables have had a significant impact in housing. Hard costs have increased well over 20-30%, just the building costs, and that doesn't include all the timing related costs, land development. But at the same time, house prices have increased too, right? I mean, over the last couple of years, there's been quite a bit of discussion about that. So as home builders, we've been able to combat those cost increases with higher pricing. But I think Sarah made a good point. As rates go up, rates affect the purchasing power for the consumer. And that's what the Fed is going to try to affect over the next several quarters, the next year or so.
Sure.
And with those rate increases, you should see hopefully a soft landing, but God only knows.
Right. When you think about the things that are getting better, by that I mean at the margin, is it labor maybe as participation rises, or you got lumber 30% off the highs, or are those not significant relative to the challenges right now?
No, Carl, I call it whack-a-mole. There's really no let-up in the challenges to this day. I will tell you, though, what's interesting is the demand side of the equation. Mortgage rates for a conforming mortgage has increased over 200 basis points year over year, and we still see good demand in all 10 states that we build in. The reason we see good demand is there's no supply. There's no resale market out there for the consumer, and interest rates are definitely a driver of how much you can acquire, but income levels are much higher, and there's plenty of millennials and plenty of other consumers that are needs-based, so we're continuing to see that demand.
How high do you think mortgage rates have to get before that demand cracks?
It's a constant debate internally, Sarah. I wish I could tell you. I mean, back in 2018.
We're going to hear from shortly. And here at the White House with Jennifer Granholm, our former governor and energy secretary, Gina McCarthy, a national climate advisor, and Kathleen Hicks, the deputy secretary of defense. And we're here to make an announcement that sounds a little complex on the surface, but really it's about something quite simple.
So, Democratic lawmakers in the Senate, including Chuck Schumer, have finally come up with a new plan to gain support from Senate Democrat Manchin on President Biden's bills. And it has been confirmed that a payment of $1,800 will be sent out to people this year. And remember, folks, the whole goal of this channel is to provide you with the most up-to-date and reliable stimulus check information. I want every member of my community to receive the much-needed stimulus check that everyone needs. So we all know that Congress must get President Biden's bill passed before the midterm elections, and Democratic lawmakers are starting to blame each other for the slow negotiations. There are several Democrats that are frustrated with Chuck Schumer, but Chuck Schumer is now talking with the chief of staff of the White House to finally get massive spending bills passed and the climate agenda approved as well. According to CNN, both people are working together to gain more support from all lawmakers in Congress, including progressives and moderate Democrats like Manchin. Chuck Schumer and Senator Ron Klain have doubled down on a new strategy, which is really great news. They have said that they are speaking to progressive lawmakers several times a day to lock in their support for Biden's agenda. But there have been big developments over the past few weeks. During a Zoom call with the 4 Democratic senators who've been main proponents of extending the child tax credit, the chief of staff insisted that the administration was still fighting for it to remain in a salvaged version of the spending bill.